As COVID-19 cases soar, Shanghai locks down half of the city to conduct mass testing for millions. Will Smith smacks Chris Rock in the face at the Oscars, overshadowing his win for Best Actor. And how two mothers are helping to make breastfeeding on the go more convenient and comfortable. Hello, you're watching The Big Story with me, Olivia Quay. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you don't miss a single episode. Shanghai is in a fresh two-stage lockdown amid an outbreak that has become China's biggest COVID-19 hotspot. From today, areas east of the Huangpu River, which includes its financial district and industrial parks, are locked down for 4 days. Then the city's west will be shut for another 4 days. Residents will be barred from leaving home, and public transport and car hailing services will be suspended. Private cars will not be allowed on the roads as well, unless necessary. With more is our China correspondent, Elizabeth Law, joining me from Beijing. So Liz, what are the purposes of the lockdown?
Well, so I think it serves a dual purpose. Number one is really to conduct mass testing, where they're trying to lock down people so that they can go through them in what the Shanghai government has termed a web fashion, in a way as a dragnet, so that they make sure that they can really test every single resident of Shanghai. And the other is, of course, to try and stop community transmission. Right now, one of the key aims of the Shanghai government is to stop the very large-scale spread of the virus that is going on. However, it has to be noted that even though numbers are fairly high today, there were 3,500 new cases that were reported this morning. Only 50 of those cases are presenting symptoms. So largely really asymptomatic infections that are happening in Shanghai.
And Liz, how are residents in Shanghai reacting to this snap lockdown that was announced, at very short notice?
Well, initially, when the snap lockdown was announced, of course, people in Shanghai did take it in their stride, thinking that because it was only going to be 48 hours. But then things just kept getting extended indefinitely while they tested more and more people. And I think people are starting to get frustrated because it's been about 2 weeks now with residential compounds going through various stages of lockdowns. And bear in mind, up to this point in the entire pandemic, Shanghai has never actually properly been under lockdown. So I think in the early stages also, there was a lot of confusion. There were shops and supply chains that were completely unprepared. So people could not get their groceries, they could not get medical supplies, and they were starting to feel a little bit frustrated. And we are seeing this on social media as well. That's where people have been going on to air their grievances. And I think one other thing that is key to note is that because Shanghai is clearly a very, very cosmopolitan city, you have people there who have been very exposed internationally, and you also have a lot of expats that are living there. So in the early days of the pandemic, the Chinese government were able to justify all this sort of lockdown, these very tough measures, because they could point to the very low death rates and how they were doing much better than all these other countries. Look at the low infection rates. But now at this point, 2 years later, the rest of the world, including Singapore, have started reopening and living with the virus in a way, and getting connected internationally again, opening up to the rest of the world. Whereas here in China, you are somewhat closed off, and at the same time, you're facing these extremely high infection rates. So it's starting to become a little bit hard to gel, and I think people are losing patience.
Well, Liz, you brought up the asymptomatic cases. They vastly outnumber the symptomatic ones. So how much of a concern is that for authorities?
It is quite a bit of a concern, because it now means that a lot of the methods, they are tried and tested methods of trying to flush out the virus, short of doing mass testing, really all the other methods aren't exactly working very well. And it also means that, it's very hard to tell whether or not you've been infected, because you could just be going about your daily life as per normal and you are actually spreading COVID. But at the same time, because there is this numbers game that they are trying to achieve, this zero COVID target, it also means that their hands are caught in a bind. And I think they are trying to look at different ways of managing it. But until there is a new general policy direction, I think this is something that's almost like playing whack-a-mole.
Well, Liz, thank you so much for the update. China correspondent Elizabeth Law in Beijing. In other headlines, from next Monday, April the 4th, ComfortDelGro will temporarily increase its distance fares by 1 cent due to the recent fuel price hikes, and comes less than a month after the operator raised its fares for the first time in a decade. This will be reviewed by the end of May and will be removed if fuel prices ease. In a first for existing housing estates, from 2027, more than 80 HDB blocks in Jurong and Yishun will be able to conserve more water with rainwater harvesting systems installed at those estates. The rainwater collected can be used to wash common areas and water plants in the estates, among other non-potable users. The system has already been adopted in BTO projects like Punggol North Shore and Teng Ah Town. And here's the shocking moment during the Oscars when Will Smith walked up on stage and slapped Chris Rock in the face. Rock had made a joke about Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head, saying she should be in the next G.I. Jane movie. Pinkett Smith went bald last year after revealing her experience with alopecia. Another historic moment, Jane Campion winning Best Director for The Power of the Dog. She's just the third female director to win an Oscar. As for the film, that was its only win, despite having 12 nominations.
People are saying it's like 2019 all over again, when Green Book, which was a sentimental movie, beat Roma, which was the more higher artistic achievement. It looked like The Power of the Dog was going to win big, especially since it had like 12 nominations, and it looked like it was going to win a lot of the more prestigious awards for Netflix. Well, what happened is that Apple TV, which distributes Coda, put in a last-minute campaign. You know, you can campaign, you send gift baskets and all that. And you can put ads on billboards all around Los Angeles. You know, we've seen that before in movies. For your consideration, billboards. And they had a late campaign effect on voting. So people said, maybe I should think about Coda. And also Coda is a feel-good movie. Like Green Book, it's a movie that makes people feel that, hey, there's optimism, there's hope, especially in America. It's not all doom and gloom. Maybe in the pandemic time, people just wanted that kind of uplift. So I think that's my take on why Coda won Best Picture. Feather in the cap for Apple TV, because they've now got something that Netflix never got, which is a Best Picture movie.
In other news, as Russia presses on with its invasion in Ukraine, the question on people's minds is the world heading for another world war? That was one of the audience questions submitted to a Straits Times panel today on the Ukraine conflict 1 month on. To watch the full webinar, you can subscribe to the Straits Times.
I think that there are a few scenarios of escalation that are very worrying. One would be for the Russians to use chemical weapons or indeed tactical nuclear weapon, a small nuclear charge, in order to warn us off. I think the chances of that are now receding after the Russians have admitted that their objectives, their war objectives, are much smaller. The second one is public opinion. My biggest fear was that if there was a siege of Kiev, the capital, and you had horrible scenes like those we've seen in smaller Ukrainian cities, the pressure may have been on to declare a no-fly zone, with NATO becoming more directly involved, and that in turn could have allowed us a sort of First World War, not Second World War, but First World War scenario of stumbling like night walkers into a war that nobody really wants. Again, I think the chances of that are slightly less this week than they were last week.
Starting a business in the middle of a pandemic may seem like a daunting task, but that's exactly what some women here in Singapore have done. Our guest Vivian Lee and her longtime friend Eunice Lim created a company that makes and manages lactation pods. Now, these pods are standalone units that provide mothers with a safe, clean and private space to nurse their infant or express milk and are free to use. The concept is unlike anything that's been done before in Singapore. I'm pleased to welcome Vivian Lee, co-founder and CEO of Go Mama. So Vivian, how did you come up with the idea of lactation pods? Did it have anything to do with your own experience with breastfeeding while out and about in public?
Thanks, Olivia. Actually, yes. Back in 2019, when I was juggling between a full-time job and breastfeeding my daughter, I often felt really stressed out about going to the office and being out on the go. That's because every 3 hourly, I would actually need to hunt for a private space to express milk. And it can be rather challenging. It's not easy to find offices or buildings that actually provides a dedicated lactation facility. So I guess that's because partly due to passed down culture and also due to like cost and space considerations. And as I start talking to more mothers around me, I realized that most of us have the same dilemma. We all often have to make do with whatever space that we can find, sometimes a toilet, sometimes the pantry, even our colleague's car, and sometimes when it can be also inconducive and unsanitary. And that's really the reason why and how we have Go Mama to understand the gap and to build a solution for it.
Fantastic. Now, this is something I can 100% relate to as well. So, Vivian, do tell us where to find these Go Mama lactation pods and how the app works.
Sure. We have partnered with Sentosa to do a pilot trial of 5 pods across the island. You can find them by the beaches, in the bus and the tram station. So moms can actually download the free Go Mama app to navigate to exactly where the pods are. Through the app, you will also be able to check the occupancy status before making your way over. The pods are completely free to use, no payment required. But due to security reasons, moms do need to go through a simple SingPass verification process in order to gain access. And for moms who are not looking to use the pods, the app actually also provides a comprehensive listing of the Singapore nursing room and its amenities provided, which can be useful information for mom to conveniently plan out their day or to locate for a lactation facility that's nearest to them.
Very useful indeed. So, Vivian, what are the plans to grow Go Mama? How do you want to see it grow?
Learning from the current trial, we are looking at refining the solution for the next rollout. We will also be working with more providers across different sectors to build a new network of lactation facilities for Singapore. Through technology, I believe that we can redefine the experience for mothers who are breastfeeding on the go. And through our efforts, we hope to bring awareness to the challenges that breastfeeding moms are facing and to create a more inclusive and optimistic environment for them.
Well, that was Vivian Lee, co-founder and CEO of Go Mama. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We have more stories online of parents in Singapore creating businesses and innovations to help other moms and dads. Check them out at str.sg/smart parenting. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. See you tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.